Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Thank y'all for pulling up here to Unfair Sports, the Sooner or Later podcast edition. We appreciate y'all showing up. Yes, James, I did miss the over-under at 6:02. We are now at 6:04, but hey, better late than never. So thanks so much for pulling up. If you are new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe, and the bell notification. If you're a frequent flyer, hit that like button since you're already here. You may as well help us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're listening to the podcast version of this, please rate us, review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. So on today's episode of the Sooner or Later podcast, I got a couple special guests. We're going to dive deep into the quarterback room. Of course, we're going to jump into some rumors and some updates around recruiting, as well as the transfer portal. It's the portal opened up here on the 15th. We got a 15-day window, and I promise you it's going to be some insanity. And so we'll jump right into that in just a moment. So thanks for pulling up. Again, we appreciate the love. We are at 8,500 subs, pushing for that 10,000 number by the end of the summer. We're going to get there, and I promise I'm going to stop the slacking. I've been slacking the last week just because I knew the portal was coming up, and I'm probably not going to get any sleep for like the next 2 weeks. So without further ado, let me bring in our special guest for the show. First up, my boy, Jason. Jason, let the people know where they can find you.
What's up, folks? Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. You can find me at CFB-pod on YouTube. Also, HOFmedia.us. and at BirdieManDub on Twitter.
There we go, my man. Jason, thanks for pulling up. And our other guest we've got today, our man from the Horns Down Podcast. Chris, let the people know where they can find you.
Look, Horns Down Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all those things. Got a video with Jay that we did earlier, kind of breaking down some of the a lot of the spring games that went down yesterday. Kind of our theme was, is there a clear number 2 in a room, in a bunch of different places? There's some new faces, different things like that. But be on the lookout for that. That's dropping tomorrow morning. Other than that, hey, thanks for the invite. Always a great time when I get invited here.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate you jumping on. I think we'll have one more jump on. We won't say who. We'll wait until he go ahead and click the button. But he knows who he is, and his DMs are now full. And if he jumps in, we will make it a 4, and we're gonna get buck wild in here today. Kidding, but we're gonna have some fun. But hey, first and foremost, before we get too far into things, how was y'all weekend, guys? It was spring game weekend, the beginning of it, from Thursday until Sunday. We had a whole bunch of them going on. As Chris mentioned, we jumped on and talked for about an hour around spring games around the country. But gentlemen, I'm gonna start it off here. What spring games jumped out to you? Jason, we'll go ahead and let you lead the way. What got your attention, and what was your thoughts on that game?
Well, the first thing that kind of got my attention, past the orange and blue game, because that was trash, but the first thing that got my attention yesterday was watching A&M and Jimbo allowing Bobby Petrino to call plays, but being all up in the Kool-Aid of every quarterback, though, still. So I see that going poorly. And then you got to say Texas looked pretty good. Quinn Ewers looked really good. Arch Manning, not as much, but you don't really expect him to as a freshman. It seemed like he was struggling a bit, but those were the two that jumped out at me the most, probably. And then Spencer a little bit at Ole Miss, but we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We're going to dive heavy into that. So, Chris, what jumped out to you? What give me one of them that really jumped out to you as far as spring games go, and how'd you feel about it?
Like we talked about on my pod, man. Look, Georgia looks good again. They look really good. I think Carson Beck, clear number 1. I think Vandergriff is the number 2. I think Vandergriff is talented, and he can get that thing rolling as well. But I will say this: Carson Beck is Stetson Bennett 2.0. He's if Stetson Bennett had the size and all the rest of that stuff that he has, look, they look really good. And one thing that I didn't say on my pod, but I'll say on this part right here, Look, Bobo is pretty much running the same exact thing. I know it's just spring, but you're still seeing the same formations, the same guys line up in the same places. There's no reason to come and blow that up. You can be more run oriented or different, or however you want to go about it. Whatever Bobo wants to do as far as slow it down, possibly. They look pretty damn good. The other game the other thing that popped out to me, I'm going to go to USC. I'm going to say this right now. Malachi Nelson today. That doesn't mean that 3-4 months later, but Malachi Nelson today is not ready to. Obviously, he's not going to compete for that starting job, but he's not ready to be the number 2. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay. I think there's still some fine tuning that needs to be done with him. Guys like Nico, guys like Arch Manning, maybe guys like Jackson Arnold, but we'll still see. But as of today, I don't believe he's ready. I think Miller Moss is going to take that job. If Miller Moss was smart, he'll be just like Malik down there at Texas and get out when he can. But I will say that the thing that was alarming to me is that the same thing that we saw in Tulane, in the Tulane game, the same thing that we saw against Utah is the same thing that's going to hunt USC going into the season. They cannot tackle for a damn. So that's what stood out to me. A lot of spring games that happened, and I mean, look, a lot of these teams, they look pretty damn good. Florida was kind of, yeah, but other than that, I would say, the USC game, and then like I said, the Georgia spring game because of Carson Beck. Carson Beck really stood out to me, and it looked like he was really, really, he was in great control of that offense. Like he knew what he was doing. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So I gandered into Clemson. I also looked at Tennessee. I did some helicoptering into the others for the most part, a little bit of Texas highlights and stuff. And I'm going to be honest, and we'll talk about this heavily when it comes to our quarterbacks too, but I didn't expect anything out of those freshmen. You're walking into some pretty large programs with some really good talent on the opposite side of the ball. Mm-hmm. I was expecting them to go out there and struggle, even though spring games are really geared heavily towards the offenses being more successful than the defenses. I had a sense that a lot of these defenses were going to come out there and put in a lot more work. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want it to be too easy for these offenses, and they need to show a little bit of authority when it comes to how the defense is going to play this coming season. So, as mentioned, USC's was a little bit more intriguing with what their defense is going to look like. And honestly, I don't feel like the spring game really tells us enough. I know that Georgia's defense definitely did, because what Georgia's defense is 100% a freaking NFL defense. So I'm not even – I knew they were going to do some stuff. But like you mentioned, Chris, Beck did good. It was some very intriguing storylines going around, but if there's one that of all of them is I'm trying to understand how Texas isn't looking at Malik Murphy as number 2 and not really being concerned with Arch even playing. He doesn't need to play this year. Don't even put the pressure on his back
in a row. Yes, sir.
Right.
Last night. I mean dimes. Whoa.
All right, he did. And before we finish up, we got one more addition to the show. He knew I was going to bring him in. Got our boy Drew. Drew. Let the people know where they can find you.
There he is.
Hey, what's up, Jay? Guys, thanks for having me on. A little late edition, but the Anything OU podcast, we do talk all things OU. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube. About to drop a really good interview coming up with a Sooner legend coming up. Give you a hint, he was on the '85 national championship team. So
nice.
That's the so there you go. What's up, guys?
What's going on, man? Thank you for pulling up with us. This is going to be fun, this conversation. So we're talking, initially we're going to talk spring game. So everybody else has had theirs, of course, this past weekend. Give me the one that jumped out to you that you got a chance to really look into.
I got a couple. I liked Florida State. Man, they look really solid on defense. I think they're continuing to build off of a really good year that they had. They got a lot of pieces coming back. They're going to be a solid bunch. Got a chance to see A&M a little bit here and there. Obviously, it's going to be interesting with Bobby Petrino calling plays now and stuff like that too. And then I agree with Chris. I think USC, man, they obviously with the offense and everything like that, you know what you're going to get. So I'm really intrigued by them, not just obviously with Lincoln Riley and everything, but they've still got a lot of talent down there. So just a couple that kind of stood out to me.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And Seth, thank you for letting the people know. Hit that like button and subscribe. And do the same thing for all the other people that you have seen on here. We'd love for you to join all of our family. So, okay, let's jump into some of the Oklahoma stuff now that we're past talking spring games and stuff. Of course, there's a whole bunch of recruiting rumors and news going out there. And so earlier this week, we missed out on linebacker Peyton Pierce. He decided that Ohio State was the move for him, and I totally understand. James Laurinaitis has done a fantastic job of recruiting for Notre Dame as well as Ohio State. Now he's gone back to his own roots. But there was one thing about his recruitment and something that happened recently that made me think, can Oklahoma do the same thing? Now, let me preface this, and I'm going to pass this around for you all to tell me what you think. Recently, NFL 8-time Pro Bowler and former Sooner Gerald McCoy retired from the pros. He spent some great years in Tampa Bay and has done some beautiful things in the trail of recruiting for Oklahoma. If you've noticed some of his tweets, he does a really good job of going after the defensive linemen. And so I'm wondering, Drew, we'll start with you. You think that Venables and them need to go ahead and just find a way to get McCoy somehow either A, on staff, or B, on quote-unquote staff?
I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, they're giving them their track record, with a lot of former players on staff, stuff like that. I mean, couldn't hurt in some capacity, whether it's a liaison or whatever you want to call it, or, stuff like that. I think he's going to recruit regardless, but might as well pay him to do it. So, if there's a spot, it wouldn't hurt.
I'm totally for that. And that's exactly my thought, especially the way that he's heavily going after Stone because, him being a former Southeast kid, Oklahoma City, and wanting to keep the local talent in. I love that, that's been his heavy recruitment. Chris, what's your thoughts on McCoy coming on and joining staff or quote unquote staff?
I mean, in my opinion, why don't you just, an easy in for him is a soul mission. Right, you're getting him on campus. You're getting him that way. That's the way that you can fit him in. I mean, you're not having to really, do anything crazy. You can just fit him right, put him right there in the soul because it fits kind of who he is. Very passionate guy. When you hear him speak, he's often speaking in examples, analogies, and just from personal experience, personal life experience. So a guy like that is somebody that you can also use in your soul mission as well. So I think that it can only help. Because obviously, look at the way a lot of these running back recruits how they view DeMarco Murray when he walks in there. When he walks in the room, and I mean these kids they look up to him. They really love the fact that hey, he did this at a high level, and now I'm learning from him. I'm learning from the best. Whereas other coaches, don't get me wrong, they come from a high pedigree, a championship pedigree. But this guy lived it, did it, and is now coaching it, But, yeah, I think he's a guy that can only add to the staff and help in any type of way. And I think also, obviously, I think that he would be a great coach as well. And he's somebody that I think you could groom into that defensive, some type of D-line position coach or whatnot to get him eventually to that point. Because I think that, just to be honest with you, I think that he could have the same effect that Todd Bates is having. I think he could have on a lot of kids down the line. Now, he needs to grow into that role, and I think Drew would agree with me on that. I'm not saying just give him an opportunity, give him a chance like that, but I'm just saying, I think a guy like he would turn a lot of heads or whatnot, and I think that he would make a great coach.
Okay, I like that. Jason, I pass it to you last because you laughed when I mentioned the job. I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are because I know if you're going through, McCoy's social media, he has a lot of stuff around these players. And just like you said, Chris, he does a really good job of advocating and trying to teach. I don't know about the soul mission. I see him more as an actual recruiter, like staff type recruiter. I think he'd be great addition to the soul mission, but I really think that I feel like
So maybe an analyst?
He has a purpose. Yeah, I can see him starting as an analyst, but actually being like a recruiting coordinator or something like that and focusing on those position groups. It feels like he's got some strength behind that. But Jason, give me your thoughts on McCoy coming to staff.
I think you're right. I think that when you start looking at him coming in as a possible recruiting coordinator type, or maybe just for, I mean, you might kind of have him come in and bat and clean up kind of deal, where you're getting him there. And I mean, he's coming in and this is an all pro, 7 times or whatever. He's a Hall of Famer in waiting, without a doubt. I mean, you get a guy like that to go and talk to somebody that, I put it up there for the screen where, he saw about Bear Alexander getting out of Georgia. And, what does he say? Is that so? So that's what he's about to go do. He's about to, make that phone call, do whatever, get in touch with somebody. And if you're somebody like Bear Alexander and, you have an opportunity to where, and he was talking about this with Stoney, that he would be willing to, give him pointers, things like that. That's big, man. I mean, if you're learning from a Hall of Famer, and I don't know how that could be a bad thing. Whether it's indirectly, directly, whatever, pay him under the table for all I care. Do something, but keep him in fold for sure.
And I don't think really is paying him under the table because, he obviously got the bread. He's had some great contracts with my Buccaneers. I'm a big Bucs fan as well. So he played for my team, which made me even more warm inside. But, I mean, if you make him a quote-unquote coach, he goes out there and he just, recruits and he circumvents everything that needs to be circumvented, I guess you could say. But as you made mention of, he talked about Bear Alexander hitting the portal. And that was one player I did want to make mention of. There's a few players that have hit this transfer portal, which started, for those that are not initiated, the transfer portal's window for the spring just opened. It's April 15th through April 30th. And so that is the window. And I think it's mainly because classes are wrapping up and we're getting close to the end of the semester. So students can finish up the semester. And then once the semester is over, get prepared to go to their next school. And so transfer portal's open 15th through the 30th. So things are going to get crazy. We've already seen a bunch of players hit the portal over the last 24 hours, and one of them was Bear Alexander, defensive lineman over at Georgia. He had 2 sacks in the national championship, and he's only a sophomore. So now we got to ask the question, and Jason, we'll start with you. You think there's a chance that the Sooners can actually win the services of a Bear Alexander? Everybody wants us to, but do you feel like there's a chance we can make it happen?
I'm hearing a lot of stuff about USC for some reason, which is weird. But I do feel like, of course, there's a chance. When you have Todd Bates, who has never not coached a guy that's been at least all conference first team once, and he's put, 2020, they had 3 first round top 20 draft picks. I mean, that alone right there tells you that you have to be thinking about Oklahoma if you're a defensive lineman. If you want to play in the league, you need to be thinking Oklahoma. So, is there a real possibility? I don't know. I'm hearing a few things here and there. Whether or not they come out, I don't know how much cash they're talking about at USC because it must be a lot if you're going to go screw up your career and play for Alex Grinch. So I don't know.
Hey, I understand. We put some defensive linemen in the league underneath Grinch's tutelage, unfortunately. So we have to at least acknowledge that one just on the slight side. But Chris, what do you think? What's your thoughts on us potentially grabbing at a player like Bear Alexander?
I think it comes down to what that bag looking like. I think you got to get that bag right for a guy like that. Because obviously he's leaving a great situation. And a lot of people, if you read the tea leaves and read the comments, I'm always trying to see when big news like this happens, I instantly go to Twitter. I'm like, okay, let's see what the masses are saying about this. Because I want to know exactly why. Is there a reason? Can I find something? Can I find a real scoop? Not just an ESPN clip. You get what I'm saying? So That being said, seems like he was getting time. He was going to be a solidified starter in this and on that D line, just from what I was reading. But for me, like I said, I think we have a chance if we get into the race. But it's going to come down to that bag for him, I believe, because I just don't know why you're leaving Georgia unless you really think that your playing time is going to get messed with an awful lot. Somebody had to have some type of conversation with him, but talking about
it didn't sound like
people about it.
Coach was that surprised about it last night, did it?
You said what?
It didn't sound like Kirby was all that surprised about it to me.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a bunch of people jump in the portal because that's the atmosphere that they have there, and that's what we're building towards. But talking to some of my people, everybody's saying like, look, we get a kid like that. He's a day one game changer. Like he's a guy that could come in and can really help.
Big kid.
If not change the defensive line all the way around, but at least help establish that foundation that Venables and Bates and company keep talking about in the interior. He's a guy that can come and play in the middle of that 3-3-5 on that nose tackle position and go to and get to work. So that's what you're looking at with a guy like that, and that's what we're trying to recruit, and that's what we need.
Kim, that's a very good question. Is there any injury reports on Barron? That I've heard none. I haven't heard anything in that regards, especially since he played in the national championship. But that is something to really keep in mind or whatnot. Drew, talk to me. You think we got a chance of snatching up Barry Alexander, or what intel have you potentially heard? So I've got some stuff to add at the end.
I would just say there's a reason that he's leaving Georgia, and I don't want to throw anything else out there, but yeah, do a little digging, do a little homework, and see what you find. Is it a right guy? Certainly, athletic ability and what he does on the field, no question, would be a great fit. But I think we need to dive a little more into the specifics because, like Chris said, Kirby Smart was not shocked that he was leaving. So I'll just say that.
Oh, well, hey, that's great. That's a great point to put out there. And I'm going to say this, based upon what I've heard is, it's all about the bag. This is a bag situation. He would like to get some money NIL wise. And I'm going to be honest, I'm hoping that we're playing in the sandbox for this one. There's certain positions I don't mind us going heavy bag in and trying to compete with everyone else on, and the defensive tackle is one I don't mind. And the reason is it's hard to find really athletic dudes over 300 pounds. It's just not easy to do. There's certain positions.
Less of those guys.
They're not like wide.
They go to Walmart and buy one off a shelf.
Yeah, you can't. They're not wide receivers. You can't just go out and there's a bunch of them out there. There's not. So
exactly, you're gonna find fast, rangy guys at the skills position easily. And the question is can you teach them how to play the position properly to be great at it? Right. But they'll have the measurables for it. You're not finding these measurables on the defensive line very often because it's hard to find a 300-pounder that's athletic as hell like he is. So, yes, I would like us to play in that sandbox. Do I think we win him? No. I am on the party of Jason. He's going to probably end up at USC because USC's collective has upped their ante as far as going after these athletes. And I'm going to be honest, the smart. I hope they figure it out.
Well, then I guess he won't be 300 pounds anymore when he gets to USC. So
yeah, that's a fair point. It's fair. It's fair. He's going to have to lighten up in order to survive out there.
He better trim down. You better trim down to play with Alex Grinch. So.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and that's probably what's going to happen. It's probably what's going to happen. Get that speed D going, baby. Got to do it. So, besides that, yes, there was a question in here around us. Will we get anyone out of the portal by Neo? What's good, Neo? Yes. I did see that we did throw out a offer to a offensive lineman over at Appalachian State, Troy Everett. We shot him an offer on the 15th, right after he literally put himself into the portal. So you'll notice that within hours of some of these players putting their name in, they're getting offers. So meaning there's backdoor tampering going on in some capacity, or there's more of a, hey, heads up, such and such is going to hit the portal if you're interested in them. So I'm sensing there's a lot of letting people know just in case, because you only got 15 days to do it while in the middle of spring practices. So keep that in mind. I think that's one of those players. We'll probably get an offensive lineman. We'll probably get a defensive lineman. And also, one last thing, I'm going to pass it over to you, Chris, real quick, is do not be surprised when you see some Sooners hit the portal. We've already had one do it today, and we'll talk about him in just a minute. But don't be surprised. At a certain point, you need to start filtering out some of the players that you don't see having a chance play to bring in those that can compete for a chance to play. And I think we're very close to our scholarship threshold. Yeah. So because of that, we need some people to leave if we want to bring in more.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we'll start with you on this one. Have you heard of any players that are potentially going to be on our radar that we can potentially land?
So are we going to talk about the elephant in the room, or are we just going to just
go ahead, go ahead and talk about the elephant. Go ahead and make it happen.
Drew, come on now. Jason, come on now. Brenan Thompson from Texas. I mean, I think that's the obvious guy that everybody is obviously talking about.
Brenan Thompson.
From all indications, it seems like there's a lot of mutual interest. From what I've told, what I can gather is, and Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that OU was pretty high up on this list initially coming out, and then just talks about just everything kind of went cold, and so Texas was, obviously next up. I don't think he has any baggage. I think that coming to OU, going anywhere else is going to be a good start, or a brand new start for him. Seeming that, they just had a lot of trouble with him on and off the field. Seeming that some promises weren't kept, like about track and everything. Obviously, if you guys are heavy on Twitter or kind of know a little bit about Twitter, especially Texas Twitter, there are some things that happened that involved his mom. It's just a lot of wacky stuff. Yeah. So,
Wayne had his mom pissed off that time.
It is just. It was one thing after the next with the kid, and you're just like, I wonder when's the domino gonna fall. And initially, I think in the first wave of I want to say the first wave of the transfer portal, I think his name was a hot topic in there as well. A lot of people thought he was going to jump in. But at the same time, it never happened. But now it's materialized. It's happened. It's kind of crazy, and it's picking up a lot of steam. That's a kid that give him a year or so or whatnot, and he's a kid that you can see really tearing it up in your slot. He's a kid that you could put on the outside as well. I think he's an inside-outside guy. I think he would do really well in the slot. But he's a guy that when you get Petaway out there and Petaway is tearing it up on one side of the field with all his speed, then that's another guy that you can combine with him and have those burners on the outside, and then be able to come in with size more on the interior with guys like Anderson, Jaden Gibson. But also, you're so versatile with your wide receiver core that they all can play any position out there. And I think that's what Levy wants. But that guy right there has, from world-class speed.
Yep.
So if you could get him out there and help him figure it out, how to really, use that speed to his advantage at this level of college football, he could be dangerous.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you want burners like that. And if I'm correct, he ran like a 10-2 on his 100. Like he's got some speed.
He's on our one team. Also.
Yeah. So and he wants to run track too. So I saw that with him, as well as like the recruit we're going after, Caden Durham down there in Duncanville. He wants to play and run track, and I believe Oklahoma. He's got a track offer from us. LSU's also looking at him. He got a track offer from them, and LSU has a really good track team too. So you've got a combination of that's the competition we're going up against.
Right.
But Brenan being a track guy is huge, and I think that's something that's going to really play out potentially well for us, since it looks like we're willing to give him a offer on that side too. So Jason, if you want to talk more about Brenan, great. If you got anybody else, feel free to tell the people.
Well, I was just going to add about a little bit about Brenan, was just that, I think that has a lot to do with it. I know even since Mac, they're not big on your guys playing football and something else, no matter what it is, even track. That's always kind of been an issue. I know that Cedric Benson used to get all kinds of help from Mac for playing baseball. He hated that. So obviously Cedric Benson was going to get on the field either way. But it seems like with Thompson, he kind of got in Sark's doghouse a little bit over this track thing or whatever it may have been. And it seems like it just never really, and then if you're him, you have to be able to see the writing on the wall when you got Jonte Cook coming in. They're high on him, obviously one of the top receivers in the country. So they should be high on him. If he's not looking at getting much time on the field, and you look at a situation where Oklahoma got a lot of unproven talent, Seems like it's a good situation for him to be in. I'm hearing it's a done deal also. I think it's pretty much a wrap, but I think it's a big addition if they did do it, and I'd like to see it happen. As far as the rest of it, I'm hearing a lot of the same rumors, but nothing I would want to say for sure about.
Okay. That's interesting. Yes, and to answer your question, Neil, yes, there was supposedly fear of backlash of leaving one program and coming to the other, similar to the Trace Ford situation where he left, Okie Light and coming here, and he didn't want, there's potential that he doesn't want to deal with that, but at the same time, he wants a new start, and
you might want to stick
we've got some opportunity here, right? We're allowing some competition here. So go, Drew, talk to me. Outside of Brenan, talk to me about Brenan and talk to me about any other players that you're hearing that we are targeting or potentially going to get. What intel you got?
I'm kind of like Jason. I've heard some things. I've actually talked to a few people, and just kind of waiting to see how everything shakes out. And we're targeting a couple people, and there's some dominoes that have to fall, and some things got to move around. Like you said, there'll be some guys that enter the portal for us, I believe. And so you've got to, allow some spots maybe to open up at certain positions or certain places. So, it'll be interesting to see what all shakes out in this, especially when you got a 15-day window to get it done. So, fast and furious the next couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes.
It's a good point. So be prepared. Transfer portal is going to be hot, heavy, busy. So let's talk about news. We've had our first player hit the portal. Not surprising. It hurts, but it makes sense. We're going to go ahead and add that up here. Our boy, Kobe Roberson, had put out a tweet roughly about 40 minutes ago that he's out. He is gone. He'll have 2 years of eligibility. He is in the portal. So that is the first domino from the Sooner depth that will be out in the streets going ahead and making those moves. So I don't want anybody to be surprised when they see this fly down the line because, hey, man, it is what it is. We understand that at a certain point with the number of scholarships we have, if we want to bring in additional players that we feel like are ready more for the SEC than what we currently have, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. So for those that don't remember, Corey was a consensus 3-star athlete. Came in 2019. So he was part of the old regime's recruits out of, Manville, Texas. And so we were hoping for him a lot more, size-wise. Look at him, 6'3", 273-ish. He wasn't as big as we would have really liked, I guess you could say today, as we've been talking about defensive linemen lately. But, he didn't play much. We didn't get much contribution from him besides on the practice side. So hopefully we get more out of, whoever we bring in. So, gentlemen, we'll go down the line. Drew's lead off. Thoughts on Corey hitting the portal and him and us getting someone else to replace him?
Yeah, like you said, it's no big surprise. I think he just kind of fell down the depth chart a little bit, and especially with this new scheme and with what we're trying to do on defense, it's no shock. I think guys will do this, and not just at OU, but around the country. Anytime you see a new staff and a new scheme and everything like that, it's an opportunity for both parties to go see. Hey, maybe it worked out somewhere else, but maybe he can go and have an opportunity somewhere else. So. I wish him the best. It would have been cool for him to kind of get in the fold and provide some more depth. But we'll find it, and I don't have any issues with him leaving or us going out and putting somebody else in that spot. So just tough situation, but wish him the best.
Same. Chris, what's your thoughts?
I think we're still on mute. Sorry.
He's speechless.
I second what Drew says, actually. It's just something that just didn't work out. Had the size, had all the rest of that stuff. But when you get caught up, obviously, with the old regime and then trying to make things work with this new regime or whatnot. It just didn't work out. So wish the best of luck to him. Hope everything goes well. Not a kid that you heard anything bad about or any of that. So, definitely wish him luck. Like you said, at the end of the day, it's another scholarship for us to be able to go out there and try to see if we can't bring in somebody on the D line that can help us instantly this year and really help, be either a glue piece or just somebody who can make sure we don't have any holes like we had last year. So, best of luck to the kid, and we'll go from there.
No, 100%. That's where I'm feeling when it comes to some of these players coming in, especially like you said, those that you don't hear anything about, ones that you don't hear caused any problems or were an issue or a locker room problem or anything like that. It saddens me for them to go because sometimes those players are really good at, helping keep the glue together. They can be those glue guys, but it's also good for them if they need to go somewhere else, Good luck. Go make the magic happen and be great somewhere else. And he's got 2 years of eligibility left. I'm stoked to see where he ends up. So thank y'all for pulling up to the show. If you're listening to the podcast version, go ahead, hit that rate, review, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. And if you are here, you're watching us now, we have about 42 likes with over 150 viewers. Somebody go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe. So, appreciate it. So the reason why everybody's here, we're going to wrap up the last 20 minutes of the show talking about the best part of preparing for the spring game. So we're going to talk about the one position we need to talk about, the last one in the series. Quarterbacks. Yes. We're going to talk about the quarterback room, and we're going to hear everybody belly ache and be upset about whatever they want to be upset about in this conversation. But honestly, I do think that this year, the spring game is going to be fun seeing quarterback play. My anticipation is that we see very little Dillon Gabriel. And I'm just going to say that up front before we jump into the actual room itself. And I say that mainly because we need to see what the other guys are going to look like, because we've watched Gabriel for a year. We know what to expect out of him. We need to see what these other guys are going to do if, God forbid, we have another injury situation or somebody hits us with another late hit. We need to see what they look like. So pull up the staff right now. So this is what we're looking like at the quarterback spot. Gabriel's going to be your starter. Now the question is going to be, who is number 2? Right now I have listed up here, we have Jackson Arnold, but I question that. And then you have Davis Bevel, General Booty, and then the grandson of the great Barry Switzer, Jacob Switzer. He transferred in recently from, I think, Southeast Louisiana, and he walked on, and now he is back there in that quarterback room. So, gentlemen, we're going to start with you, Jason. Quarterback-wise, what is your expectations coming in the spring game, as well as who do you think is going to end up being number 2?
I think Jackson Arnold's probably going to be number 2. And at maybe General Booty. I think General Booty is obviously he's had some success in high school possibility. I don't know what happened with last year, his eye infection, whatever it was that happened. But it seems to me, I don't know what it was, Drew, and I know that I see that look. But I think that Jackson's the clear number 2 starting off the season, and probably you're going to see him get in at some point. At least whether it be a mop-up time or whatever, I think that they're going to want to find out whether he's ready to rock and roll. And, but Dillon has looked great in camp. I know that. So, I've been excited to see how he's – and you keep hearing about the leadership is just continuing to kind of grow there. And he's taking it on as his team. I love it. And anytime that you have a couple of guys that probably need to play a little bit, that's not a bad thing. That's definitely not a bad thing. So knowing what we know about the past season when there was zero depth, all the way around, to have somebody that that you can look to and say, hey, we're ready for him. That's good. That's good for me.
Okay. Chris, what you got?
Look, Jay, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. I don't want to see a lot of these quarterbacks, especially Bevel. I'm just going to be quite frank with
I
you.
don't see Bevel either.
I can't do that. I can't do that again. I'd like to see General Booty. I'd like to see if he's going to be serviceable this year. I think it's clear cut Jackson Normal. Like I told you before, I think the question is not, do we see a lot of Gabriel or this and that with the quarterback room? I think the question is do you redshirt Jackson Normal this year? I think that's a serious question that needs to be answered, regardless of how he plays, whether it's good, bad, or great during the spring game. Is he your number 2 or is he redshirted? Especially given the fact that you go into the SEC next year, you want to give him as much time to grow into that position because you think he's going to be a baller. So what do? I'll be honest with you. I kind of tend to lean towards seeing one of these guys possibly go into the portal. Not Switzer, probably not Booty, but maybe Bevel again. I mean, I don't know, but. That's the question I want to ask about and I'd ask that to the room as well. And Drew, I'd love to hear what you had to say about it. But do you go with Jackson Normal as your day one, second man up, or are you redshirting him?
Oh man, that's tough. Yeah. And I know everyone has I'm not gonna say hate, but a disdain for our main man Bevel. We've seen that movie, and I think that's a movie that nobody wants to watch again, unfortunately for him. Yeah. But I think he'd do well with the clipboard coaching. I think he probably would do a great job of telling people what not to do, but at the same time, we may not get that's not a movie we want to see again. Drew, talk to me. What you thinking about depth chart wise for our quarterbacks?
Depth, I mean, obviously is a little bit better, and especially when you got a 5-star guy like Jackson Arnold coming in. Had a chance to be at practice on Friday and watch these guys a little bit and spend a lot of time on the offensive side and seeing these guys and everything. And it comes down to, hey, if you got them in the room and they're ready, it's the best guy up. Whether that's Dylan Gabriel at 1 and then Jackson Arnold at 2 or whoever it is. But if they're ready to go and you feel good about them being your second string quarterback, pull the trigger. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point where, like you said earlier, where we have that injury thing and Dylan rock and rolls all season and we get our main man J.A. in there for some mop up and everything like that. But, you still get 4 games, and still be able to preserve that red shirt, stuff like that too. So, in a perfect world, DG goes out and does his thing, which he's looked really good. I'll attest to what Jason was saying, especially Friday, man. He was slinging the rock around a little bit, and his leadership and his being vocal has gotten more, more turned up a little bit. But I'll tell you what, Jackson Arnold can pull that football and take off and run. I got to see him do that a couple of time or two. On some zone reads, stuff like that. But yeah, he's a special talent. But I think that with Levy and what they're doing, bringing him along slow and making sure that he is continuing to progress and to continuing to get better. And I like the trajectory that he's on. But yeah, it'll obviously ending spring on a good note, and then as it gets ratcheted up in the summer, and then obviously going into fall camp, that's when you really got to know where you're at. But I like what I've seen, and General is out there a little bit. He's done some nice things. I'd like to see him, compete a little more and see where he's at too, because he's got some talent as well. But building some depth, I think, helps, and continuing to get guys healthy, I think, at all other positions as well, because we've still got some guys out that are a little banged up and not taking a lot of reps in the spring. So it's not a cause for concern. It's just where we're at right now. But, as those other pieces fall into place, obviously up front with the offensive line, there's a couple guys, here and there banged up and everything like that. Just, as that comes along and we really get into fall camp, that's when you're really going to see the dial ratcheted up a little bit more. So, but I like what I've seen. So.
Yeah, no, that's some good information, Drew. I appreciate you sliding us that intel from the practice that you got to check it out. Hopefully, we also gained ourselves a new coach during said coach's clinic, since he was in town. He may as well. I'm not going to even say the name. Everybody should know who we're talking about, but I digress on that note. I kind of disagree with a lot of people in here that thinks that we shouldn't redshirt Arnold. Yeah, I agree with the fact that he's most likely gone after roughly 2 seasons. There's a chance that once he hit the 3 years removed from high school and he's eligible for the draft, he most likely will leave and go to the draft. Yes. I would prefer that they redshirt him and not throw him out there into the fire this early. And I say that for one reason, and me and Chris talked about this before, is as great as Caleb was in saving games his freshman year here, he wasn't very good. There was a lot of stuff that a lot of people were complaining about, just overall decision making and stuff. Hell, he had that one busted play that looked out to be a 70-yard touchdown. And it's only because he's uber athletic.
Yeah.
J.A. isn't as athletic as Caleb, but J.A. is athletic. He's not quite. He's athletic. Don't get it twisted.
He's surprised.
He's gonna
he
book
surprised
it.
me. Yeah, he surprised me a little bit with his ability to take off and run. And
when I watched his high school,
yeah. But when you're talking about Caleb Williams, he's arguably the best quarterback in the country coming back next year. So
exactly,
yeah,
and he's potentially a generational talent. That's not to take anything from J.A., but there are levels to this.
He's a Vince Young type of player.
There you go. And Vince was absurd especially when he got older. Young Vince was not good at all.
I kind of put them on that same. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And that's what fears me about J.A. coming in too early is I don't want, not that he'll get rattled, but I just don't want the season to get tanked because you had to throw in the freshman because you felt like you had to play him. I don't want a Spencer Caleb situation again. I would like for Gabriel to go out there, finish the season, hopefully, and I'll make this statement. This is not going to be liked by everybody, but I'm going to say it because this is truly how I feel. I want General Booty to be the second quarterback, and this is the reason why. Once Dylan Gabriel's gone, and I think he's gone after this season, and I have a question after that Chris posed to me that we need to talk through. But once Gabriel is gone, we know Jackson Arnold's going to be the number 1. There's no question there, right? Because he's here for that. Who's going to be his number 2? Wouldn't you like an experienced number 2 to be right behind him, just in case TCU decides they want to continue to be dirty and take out quarterbacks? I'm just posing that with the thought for all of you. Wouldn't you like to have a number 2 that is battle tested to hold the fort down once you transition from one quarterback to the next?
Well,
I'm just curious to everybody's thoughts.
That's a great point.
I was looking at it's like a track meet. It's like a 4x1. You want that nice smooth exchange, that handoff with the baton. You don't want somebody just sprinting down there and rushing around and trying to drop the baton. You want somebody that's gonna have that clean exchange like we've had in the past with a lot of quarterbacks. We had Sam Bradford to Landry Jones to, those type of situations where guys have time to learn, guys have time to, dip their toes in the water and not just cannonball in. It's one of those things where, it's a good point. Michael Hawkins is another one that's coming in, but we'll see what he's about,
I don't like freshmen being number 2s. Yeah, that's my point.
Is he going to be ready to be a starter, though, if something happens?
It's a cycle we're going to keep going through of freshmen being your number 2 quarterbacks when, and then it's going to be the chance that if J.A. has one bad game, people are going to scream to have Hawkins go in. If you have General Booty as your backup, no one will ever scream for him to go in the game.
And look, they didn't offer Booty a freaking scholarship to come here after that year that he played JUCO ball for nothing. The guy he can play. You know what I mean? Is he as good as Jackson?
But
probably not.
There's a reason that I'm not dissing on him and throwing in. There's a reason why he wasn't highly recruited by any other schools at either. Yeah. So I'm not saying that he's a world beater, but I'm not saying he's garbage either. He's a good, average quarterback that you need that, but he doesn't have Division I experience either. So let's not be naive to think that he's just going to jump in and, the world's going to be fine with him in there too. So we don't know what we've got with him because we haven't seen him play in a game either. So it's kind of that. And
it's fair. And you're right, Drew, on that point. And that was one thing I was going to say too, is that there was a reason why he wasn't highly touted coming out of JUCO. But Seth, I disagree here. If he's our number 2 next year, that just means we have an experienced number 2. That doesn't mean Michael Hawkins and them don't get a chance to play, or when Sperry comes in, the year after they don't play. It's more so you need someone to be in your system that knows how to play in your system at least 1 year to be any good at it. Because a lot of these quarterbacks walk in, try to learn these complex systems, and they don't be successful. I just would like to have an experienced backup that we never play. Also, you'll never hear anybody scream that they want General Booty to go in over Jackson Arnold. So it's always a good thing to have that, because sometimes we like to have the young player take over for everybody else when it's like, no. Let him settle down. He maybe have a moment, and let's play this out the way we should play it. That's just my thought.
Just to add to that, I would think if you're saying let's have him be the backup guy or whatever, I think in terms of, to maybe come in the middle of a game if there was an injury. Long term, if there's going to be an injury to Dylan, you're probably going to get Jackson Arnold. And
Correct.
I think that that's fine, and that's what you want. What you don't want is him to come in all of a sudden in the middle of a monster game, and this is his first action because somebody got hurt. Or is that what you're basically saying, Jay? I mean,
yeah. We know that.
I don't have a problem
want to
with him not being the backup per se, emergency.
Right.
Backup.
I want to preserve Jackson's red shirt mainly so that he can be in the gym with
yes.
Schmitty, get his size, get him strong, make sure he's good body wise, and playing. Remember, we're playing in the SEC next year, so physically, quarterback's got to be prepared to take some licks from some good 300-pound defensive linemen that run 4.40s. So I want to make sure that physically he's ready for it, and he's just ready for the speed that the SEC is going to bring in comparison to here. Now, here may be a good test run, but at the same time, he's probably going to be working with the twos in practice. But I think string-wise, I just want Booty to be back there behind Dylan just in case. And just like you said, Jason's perfect. When Dylan Gabriel gets hurt in the middle of a game, I'd probably want Booty in there before I want Jackson Arnold, just because of experience with the playbook. But the next game, I think Jackson Arnold starts.
But
that's kind of my point.
Jay, you just want some booty. You just want some booty. That's all.
Booty.
No, but I think GB has a good chance for that. But Chris, go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
I'm just going to jump in here and just say this right here. I'm fine with what you're saying as long as we don't see a repeat of the Texas game.
Yeah.
That is the fear that goes into the situation. Coming out that game, you see Gabriel out there, you think, okay, well, maybe he's gonna play, everything is fine, it's good. Then boom, Bevel comes out there, he's amping up the crowd, all the crazy stuff. Oh, it's great. Can't complete a pass to save our life. Can't get off a third down. We're running Wildcat the entire game. I mean, that is a actual fear, because it's something that we've actually seen. So it's not just that, I have a good command of the game. Is Levy and Venables and company, are they confident enough to go out there with Bevel or General Booty this year and say, we're going to actually open up the playbook, keep the same playbook that we're going to run, or are they going to do the same thing they did last year? Because if they're doing that, then Drew can speak to this. We already lost one kid, and I definitely don't think we will lose Jackson Arnold, but at the same time, let's not do that again. Let's not.
No, and I don't think that's what anybody's saying though either, Chris. I think that we're talking going in like right
Jason,
now, this second.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we've already seen that. They weren't confident in him in either one of those two last year. Obviously, if you're going out there against Texas and you're getting beat 49-0 running Wildcat, you're not attempting passes. You're doing jump passes on third down with Eric Gray.
To be fair with that, one, there was a rumor that Booty had an eye situation, so he couldn't play, so he couldn't see. Number two is this was everybody's first year in the system besides Dylan Gabriel. So knowing the complexity of how Levy's system is compared to the old regime system, it makes sense that you're probably fearful that this dude's going to screw it up. I'm just being honest. From there, though.
It was 49-0, so how much could you have screwed it up?
I mean, you're right. You're 100%. Hell, they saw success with the Wildcats. Should have kept it going. But no, you're right. You're right, Drew. If you're gonna go down,
if you're gonna go
down swinging,
go down swinging, man.
But I think Bevel was also terrified to throw. But besides that, and that's the reason why I never said anything about Bevel being number 2. That's the exact reason why I didn't. I said, Booty, we need to go ahead and make him go out there and show us something, just so that we have some reliable backups, because, knock on wood, you hope that you don't have multiple quarterbacks go down in the game, in which we've seen that happen
look at
before.
How gun shy we all are over one season.
Yeah, we're very gun shy. But for me,
got freaking trauma.
Everybody's traumatized, bro. Everybody's traumatized. But outside of that, going in preparation for the SEC, let me ask this question. Chris had posed this to me on his before we wrap things up and put a bow on it. Quarterbacks. If Dillon Gabriel has a solid season or a mediocre season, do you want him to come back next year? Drew, I'll start with you.
I mean, it just kind of depends on our season, to be honest. Like, what's our record? Like, is it going to continue? I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him come back again, but it's one of those things where it's just, I don't know enough to, make that decision right now. Is he going
to have another year?
Yeah, he'll have.
Yeah, he has one more year. He has one more year left.
Wow.
Yeah. When he came here, he had 3 years.
Well, Drew,
3 when he came in.
To kind of elaborate on the point, the point I was trying to make was that going into the SEC, do you want a seasoned veteran to lead you into the SEC with the talent that we're accumulating and all the rest of that to kind of continue this whole foundational treatment that we're trying to do here? Or do you say, hey, look, you've hit your ceiling. Like, this is the college quarterback that you have been and that you're always going to be. Your draft stock is not going to change. Even if you go out there and win the Heisman, you're still probably a late day 2 or early day 3 guy.
Yep.
If drafted. So I don't necessarily know if coming back to the SEC and even going 10-2, 10-1, winning the national championship is going to help his stock 100%. At all.
Yeah, so I don't think it helps him.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing for me is that, I think that's the position that he's in, where obviously he can make max dollar here in college football, NIL deals and stuff like that alone. But I just don't know going forward towards the SEC. I don't know if that's something that you necessarily want to say, yeah, I want Dillon Gabriel to come back.
Sure.
Jason?
Yeah, I agree with what Chris is saying here. I think that that's probably not what you want to do if you're Dillon. If he comes in and he has a big season this year, I've always been a believer that Landry waited 1 year too long to get his real shot in the NFL. He had a first-round grade as a junior. He should have left as a junior. He came back. He ends up going in the 3rd, 4th round, and it wasn't the best thing. He had a great career at Oklahoma, but it hurt him going forward. I've always been of that belief. Now, as far as the other side of it, though, is this. If you really think that Jackson Arnold is that guy, you cannot hold him up a second season. You can't.
That's fair.
I don't think that you can mess with that development and possibly have him walk out the door because you didn't give him that playing time. I don't think that you can do that. I think that it's got to be no. I'm in agreement with most of the guys in here that in the comments section that are saying no. And it's not because I don't like Dillon. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's better than a lot of people in here think he is. That being said, I don't think he's Jackson talent-wise, and I do think that you don't mess around with Jackson leaving possibly because you didn't stick him in the game.
And I agree with you there. That was kind of a little bit of my thought, is that going into the SEC, go ahead, clean slate, new quarterback, one that's built to be a little bit more mobile for that conference, and built probably to do very well there. The other thing that I'm thinking about too is, now I don't want y'all to be afraid here in these comments. Viewers, understand that this is not set in stone, but it is something that I have thought about and I'm taking into consideration.
Right.
Jeff Lebby was already hinted at towards that Alabama job. I've heard that there was 2 other jobs that was offered to him as well, and he passed on them. Definitely group of 5, he passed on all of those opportunities. I think at least 2 or 3 of them, and there was one NFL opportunity he passed on to stay. Mm-hmm. But if a Power 5 head coaching job comes open, there's a chance we lose Lebby for that.
I think if it's
in the next 2 years.
Job.
I'm giving him 2 years before he's out for a new job. Now, granted, the one good thing we have prepared for is Seth Luttrell did join the staff recently. So I think we'll be fine at the OC spot for another few more years as he's here specifically to do that. So I ask this, if Lebby leaves, do we see Jackson Arnold following him? And I'm going to say personally, I don't think so. I don't see him leaving with Lebby leaving. And on the Dylan Gabriel question, I think Dylan Gabriel's gone after this season, regardless of if he goes pro or not. I think he's gone. If anything, if he does stick around and stays at the school, he's a graduate assistant and he's working on going into coaching. But that's my feeling behind it. I totally agree with y'all. There's no reason to hold back a Jackson Arnold who has shown us talent-wise that he can be something special. And based upon Drew's assessment from practice and all the videos I've seen in practices recently, the dude looks like he's ready to go ahead and make it happen. So I'm hoping for a Drake May type of season out of him next year once we walk to the SEC and start punking everybody. But I don't think that we have any concerns there. So, all right, final thoughts. Quarterbacks, recruiting, whatever. We're going to make that magic happen. Drew, I'll let you lead the way off.
First off, I know you mentioned it earlier, but I got a chance to go to the coaches clinic and hang out and got to sit in on some Q&A and some chalk talk with Coach Lebby and DeMarco Murray and those guys, and was awesome. So first class, what they did, rolling out, all of us high school coaches welcomed us in. It was fun. We had a great time. Got to see practice, everything like that. So it was good. It was real fun. But as far as quarterback stuff, everything like that, it's going to be good. I think next year we're far better than we were going into last year. Another chance for these guys in the system to keep learning and retaining more information, and they're playing a little faster, and things are on the up and up, and it's going to be good, and I'm excited to see where we go. Obviously, spring game next weekend. You guys better be there. All you guys in the comments, pull up to the Palace, and everything like that. But excited, and obviously we get into summer, transfer portal stuff, all that good jazz, and then fall will be here before we know it. So all good. No.
Yeah, statue wise, we've got make sure if you're at the spring game, we definitely got the Kyler Murray statue going up next to Baker's, Drew's favorite quarterback. Kidding.
My favorite, you're right. Kyler Murray is my favorite quarterback. You are absolutely right.
Kyler is his favorite quarterback. He's going next to your other favorite, Baker Mayfield, so we'll be stoked.
No, he's actually not. He's going on the opposite side of Baker Mayfield.
Oh, so you'll be booking in it with your BFF.
Well, not quite. He's down there by Jason White. So
smart.
He's the second to last on the down there on the east side. So
I need to get down there and get me some selfies in. Down there. Chris, go ahead. What's your final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
I'd say final thoughts, man. I'm excited about the spring game. Not for the reasons you probably think I am, because once the spring game is done, then the fun kind of begins. Let's see what are the last, I guess, what's going to be the last phase of retooling on this team that you see, as far as guys leaving and then guys coming in. Obviously, the Bear Alexander, that's a great name out there right now that you would love to be able to get. But also, I think there's a tight end that just jumped into the portal from North Texas, the kid from App State you were talking about, Brenan Thompson. I mean, it's kind of exciting because you're starting to see some of these things happen. And obviously, some of these freshmen are coming in now that you think that could possibly compete and be able to help this team, the Taylor Wines of the world, Kenyon Brown, Petaway, guys like that you want to see get into the fold very quickly. So definitely excited about the spring game, get to see a lot of different things. I'm keeping my eyes on Kobe McKenzie, Jared Canick, a lot of those guys right there, because that linebacker position is going to be held throughout spring and throughout the summer, because when those summer guys get in there, you got some dudes. So The thing about it is that spring is really the gateway to the next stage as far as that last wave of retooling this defense, this offense, this whole team. So excited about that for sure. So like, subscribe, comment everybody's podcast on here. If you're not a fan of if you're a fan of anybody on here, definitely check out everybody else's stuff. And just excited about this spring game, man.
Heck yeah, good stuff, Chris. And it's a good point. Two things on that one. First off, this question came up. Any update on recruits coming for the spring game? I'll have a video later this week on that. I've been doing a lot of searching to see what's been put out in the public. There's going to be a lot.
Names in town. Yep.
Yeah, there's going to be some big names out there that's going to be pulling up. And so we're pretty stoked about that. And the second thing is, too, just as Chris mentioned, we still got a whole bunch of 23 recruits that aren't even in town yet. They won't be here till the summer and going into the fall. Very excited about some of the names that are in there. Some of them are track athletes and doing other stuff, and that's the reason why they're not here. And so because of that, be prepared for a lot. I'm going to make sure I'm going to run through that class again over the next month since we won't have anything else to talk about. I'm just going to run through stuff from all those other players and make sure to remind you of who's coming in 23 as well as who we got in the 22 class and Brent Venable's first class itself. So, Jason, wrap us up. What's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Hey, man, I'm excited about the spring game coming up as well. I'm glad I've been watching spring football all weekend since Thursday, and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to check it out. I should be in Norman for the spring game myself. So excited about that. Excited to get to see the statue go up for Kyler. I do like Baker Mayfield, so I will be going and getting a selfie with that one. Yeah.
Send it to Drew.
And I do feel like I do feel like there's some good opportunities to possibly maybe get somebody like Bear and some of this stuff coming up. So this transfer portal stuff, I'm excited about. I think that people are going to have to realize, like you talked about a little bit earlier, that you're going to have to see some of these guys go into the portal in order to get some of those guys and to get the guys moving forward for the 2024 class, because you are going to be up against it with the scholarship total. So it's something that we have to understand about that. And so it is what it is. I'm excited, though. This is going to be a lot of fun, man. It's can't wait for the season. And, man, it's good times, good times. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you all for pulling up as usual. Viewers, thank you all for tuning in. I know that Josh Payton, the late kickoff, is starting right now. So thank y'all for coming through. Please make sure you like and subscribe to all the content on here. You've got the Horns Down Podcast, Hall of Fame Media, as well as anything OU. Go out there and show them some love here on the YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast version, rate, review, and give us those 5 stars. And we'll wrap things up with, of course, Horns Down, all love. We will talk to you all later. So,
see you guys.
Peace.